Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, Eddie Gagnon! And in the opposite corner, Kristen Gagnon! This is What's Special About Special.
I wanted to say that.
Well, hello there. My name's Eddie Gagnon.
Eddie, I don't want to be here all night.
Welcome and thank you for joining us. My name's Eddie Gagnon. That was perfect. Kristen.
Your voice.
Hi and welcome to another episode of What's Special About Special. On today's episode, we're speaking with one of our dream guests, Mindy Scheier.
Mindy is founder and CEO of the Runway of Dreams Foundation and Gamut Management. If you liked our episode with Ashley Robinson, you'll love this episode learning more about Mindy's journey creating this world. Welcome, Mindy Scheier of Runway of Dreams and Gamut Management now, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So thanks for being on the show. We're super excited to have you. I've been extra excited for this interview. It's like having a celebrity to me. You were our dream guest.
Yeah, it was actually, oh my gosh. So we'll get to it, but your TED Talk.
It's a big talk
TED
in this house.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
And it was
a definite highlight of my life to be able to have shared the story on that platform.
Oh, it was tremendous. Oh.
Huge for us.
So this is our first oh my God, we're doing stuff. We are really doing this.
Thank you.
So thank you. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know, this podcast is not only is it just an opportunity to chat and talk with everybody, but we are free to, say and talk however you feel. We always have a glass while we're interviewing because usually it's been a long day at work. So we always welcome our guests too as well. But we just want everyone to feel comfortable while we're chatting. It's super impersonal. So to start off at the bat, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're from Vermont, right? That's where you kind of...
No, I grew up outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
I went to college at University of Vermont, so maybe that's where I got that.
Okay.
And now I live outside of Manhattan.
Okay. Awesome. So you're a city girl.
I think so.
Yeah.
I am. But the children require grass and running around, so we moved to the suburbs.
Yeah, I feel
so you guys, we believe in free grazing too. So we fenced in,
free range kids.
Yeah, free range children. That's what the word I was looking for. Yeah. So fencing in the yard.
I like that.
If I had my way, we'd be in the city. If Eddie had his way, we'd be in the country. So.
Deep country. And she just wants to be smack dab in between two sky rises. I can't do that. People are cool in small doses.
Yeah, so this must be good for you then. The shelter.
Oh, this. Oh, I'm loving it. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, you love it too. So the house is clean. Everything's organized. Our storage is organized. All the decorations are organized. My garage is organized.
Next, none of the above.
You can have them. I'll ship them right to you right now.
Yeah.
Real done with them. So tell us a little bit about, so you mentioned you're in New Jersey. You've got your husband. You have 3 kids, right?
3 kids. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
My daughter's a senior in high school. Unfortunately, it's really crappy senior year. And then Oliver, my child with muscular dystrophy, is 15. And then I have a little guy, Bo, who is 10.
Not even little now, 10. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you call your little ones little, but.
Because when I, now I've become a 4th grade teacher, which I am not qualified to be in any stretch of the imagination.
I know it's crazy. I'm not qualified to be a 2nd grade teacher right now. And I'm just wing it. There's no more Common Core in our house.
You pawn that off to me.
We keep talking about this every episode.
Teacher right now, which is pretty good. I'm pretty good. Yeah. So I'm not going to lie.
I can't be the teacher.
I like it.
So you said your middle child has muscular dystrophy.
Correct.
For those of our listeners, because we have listeners with children who have special needs, children who don't have special needs, and they're all across the gambit. Tell us a little bit about what muscular dystrophy is.
So muscular dystrophy is a neuromuscular disease that in our case is genetic. However, nobody in either of our family lines had any type of muscular dystrophy. So Oliver is, as our geneticist explained to us, as close to impossible as she's ever seen in her career, that both my husband and I had the same mutation of the same exact gene, found each other and got married and had kids, and Oliver's the lucky winner.
Wow.
That he got the mutation from both of us. And his form of muscular dystrophy is called rigid spine, which is incredibly rare. He's one of 70 cases in the world. So they are literally learning from him from as he's growing up, trying to understand the disease and how it affects the body. Muscular dystrophies in general are degenerative muscular diseases. So your muscles will break down over time. It just depends on the strain that you have, how quick it happens. Again, in Oliver's case, they're just really not sure. Right. So thankfully, I think in the scheme of things, his degeneration is relatively slow, and he's still ambulatory. He's certainly lost a lot of capabilities that he used to have that he can no longer do. But he, I think, leads a fairly typical life. He goes to public school. He, has wonderful accommodations, but is able to really, I think, lead as typical 15-year-old life can be.
Yeah. Now, are there is there medications to help slow down the degeneration for muscular dystrophy, or is it kind of just a wait and see kind of thing?
Unfortunately, it's certainly for his version, and maybe for Duchenne's now, they might have some medication, which is another form of muscular dystrophy, but for Oliver's form, there's nothing. That we can do.
But I would assume with more kids like Oliver and the more involved you guys get, there must be more research kind of slowly creeping up, or?
Well, I think it's unfortunately one of those situations that when you have limited resources, for research and whatnot, your focus has to be on the strains that are the most popular. And 70 cases in the world doesn't even get you barely.
You're not on the list. Yeah.
So, look, I think they're doing what they can. Apparently they're doing some research in France. But we try to do everything that we can do to help future generations. Oliver we take him down to the NIH, the National Institute of Health, to have everything documented about what's happening, to him and his muscle strength, and they take pictures of him at different stages of his life. And so I can only hope that someday this helps some other kids or adults that are diagnosed.
Yeah, well, especially because I know, for us, even just going to clinic and how regularly we have to go to things, how it's a lot on Eddie, it's a lot on us, it's draining, it's exhausting. So you hope that by doing that, every time they ask us, do you want to participate in this? Do you want to participate in this trial? Or we always say yes. I don't think we've ever said no. And we've said no one time, and it was this last time, and it was because Eddie was just very scared. And that was my kind of red flag to be we don't want to participate. If he's going to be too scared to do something, that's just traumatizing. We'll catch it the next round. But other than that, we've always said yes, because all I can think is, as much as this is exhausting for us, it can be something someone else will just never have to worry about if we can help something. So it must be I would assume it's the same for you guys. Making those trips to NIH and doing all those things is hopefully helping someone in the future. Well, hopefully he'll have a good story one day too. You're going to have he's going to be an inspirational little kid where he's going to have a story of his own to be able to kind of hopefully inspire other kids as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we already have his college essay written at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, wrote itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Never mind a college essay. You guys got a pretty good novel. I would say let's start. That's pretty good.
Maybe someday. I don't know.
Netflix will pick it up. I swear to God, and they make.
I hope so. I mean, I'm trying. I don't know. But the interesting thing is that, and I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but when Oliver was finally diagnosed, and it took 4 years to get a diagnosis, they had absolutely no idea what was happening, why he wasn't meeting milestones. He was losing ridiculous amounts of weight, and he was my second, so I knew that he should have been doing things when based on my daughter. And so, number one, I think it's very hard when doctors say to you, you just may never know.
Yep.
You might be a medical mystery. That is, as a parent, probably one of the most difficult things that we went through, is just the complete unknown of, you don't even know what path to go down if you don't even know what your child has. But then when we did get diagnosed, thankfully, I had no idea what muscular dystrophy was. To me, it was the Jerry Lewis telethon every year, during September. And that was my extent of knowledge of the disease. So, not only do you have to come to a new normal that it's your child that has this disease, but you have to get yourself educated on what this disease even is.
Yep.
So, it's a really, really challenging time, I think, as a parent, that at the time it can feel, and still sometimes feels, very lonely.
Yeah.
That why us? Why him? Why were we, the ones that had to have the same mutation? But as you said, I allow myself I give myself 24 hours to ever have a pity party.
Yeah.
If things get difficult or he has a challenging doctor's appointment, and then, you got to come out. You got to come out of that cave and say, well, I am so grateful that Oliver brought all of this into our world.
Yeah.
I had no idea that this other side, this huge side of the world existed, and I probably wouldn't have had this not happen. So
I think time and time again, we've said that, like, there's not every single person we've spoken to. And that's kind of why we started this whole podcast, is that everyone I've talked to says, I just felt alone. I felt like there wasn't anyone that understood what I was going through. And then I talked to somebody and their child had a whole different diagnosis, but their journey and their story is exactly the same. We got a diagnosis. I didn't know what to do. I went down a Google rabbit hole. I felt alone. I had no resources. I had to find them myself. It was always the same story. And that person was, just as scared as I was. And everyone says to you, oh, God, you're so brave. You're so strong. And no, I just did what I had to do because I'm a parent, and you figure it out as you go, and you find a community somehow, some way. There are people out there right now in that same beginning stages just looking for a community. Mm-hmm. And, if it's because they listened to this podcast, or because they saw Runway of Dreams, or because they saw somebody in the Target ad, or wherever, that's their community that they're finding. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just so important that there's just more of that and more of that we can get out there, so that that anybody coming across that, whether you're a parent or you're somebody that maybe got into a car accident and you now have a spinal cord injury, that person's just as alone right now. Anyone that's just starting to come into a world where you just feel like you're different and you don't know where to go from there. It's big. So, you come to this, you have a diagnosis. You're now kind of in this world of muscular dystrophy with Oliver. How, we saw your TED Talk. Eddie had mentioned it was huge to us. Emotional.
Let's not talk about it. I have the eyeliner and stuff in. I don't want that to run.
He doesn't want to run his eyeliner. I can't even look at you with this on your face. For me, watching that TED Talk, I mean, I'm like big into TED Talks. I've watched a million of them, but yours, I think, spoke one, spoke a lot, obviously, because I'm a special needs parent as well. But even more, I mean, you had emotion behind it. It was raw. That meant a lot to me. I feel like you could have went on there and told your story and talked about Runway of Dreams and everything that you guys were doing, but there was more to it. You talked about your journey with Oliver and everything. I think that meant a lot. You know, your emotion was there. And was that the first time that you spoke on that kind of a level about Oliver's story and journey?
That's a great question. Up until that point, I had done quite a bit of speaking, but going through the TED process, and they have a process, and especially if you're a big TED Talk listener or watcher, there's a cadence. There's a definite science behind how they like TED Talks to go. And one thing they believe so strongly in is that it's not a presentation or a speech, it's a talk.
Yeah.
And so when I first started going through the process, like any other speaking engagement I had, I told my story. I told, about Runway of Dreams and our partnership with Tommy Hilfiger and all of that amazing stuff. But I had never gotten to a place, nor probably I didn't share publicly the real reality of what it's like. It's having a child that you have to sit on the sidelines and literally watch as their body breaks down in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And that I have to give so much credit to the TED Talk people and those that are behind the scenes, because they believe so much in the authenticity of what they're doing that they kind of pushed me in the best way to get to that point. And I kept saying to them, I don't think I can do it without crying. It's too real and it's too close to the heart. And they said, so don't not cry. Yeah. Then do whatever is, in your heart. And it's a 3-month process to prepare to do a TED Talk. And when I did finally get to the end stages, there wasn't one time that I could do it, whether I was practicing or on stage or not, then get through those last couple lines, because it's so challenging.
Yeah.
To speak about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think as someone watching and someone who's been in a similar position, I mean, for us specifically with Eddie, it's so similar because he's ambulatory most of the time. He wears leg braces, and he just turned 8 last February, and just about now is where Eddie's going to get emotional. See, we brought tissues, but just about now is where he's starting to just have that awareness of his peers and how things are at school. And I have noticed that he'll bring things up, and he didn't really care about what he wore to school before. He has a uniform. But they have dress down days, and he always would just wear sweatpants on dress down days. But the jeans thing is a big deal. He hates wearing jeans. And so when that opportunity came up to be able to get him jeans that are more adaptive, it's huge in our house, because he can on his own change his pants and unbutton his fly. He has to go to the nurse to go to the bathroom every day. And so that little bit of, more than anything, that just freedom and that independence at 8 years old. Before 8 years old, no one really paid attention. 6, 7, kindergarten, first grade, no one's really paying attention to what you're doing. But second grade seems to be that age where they have this awareness of their peers and what someone else is doing. And he started to have an awareness of what was happening and his independence. And so that spoke so much to me when you started talking about that with Oliver, because that's where we are right now. That's our reality. And
first of all, it makes me so thrilled to hear how this has translated to you and your son, because, we're all in this together. There's no rule books on this. There's no parent guide on how best to do it. And I think that was a big part for me as well, especially because I came from the fashion industry. I'm a trained fashion designer. I think so much about what I wear every day, even in the quarantine, because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And it's about how I present myself to the world. And I needed my 8-year-old to remind me how critically important it is for everybody to have that connection to who they are and their worth by, you know, how they're presenting themselves to the world. And I know that you know, those initial pair of jeans that I modified, and it was the first time that Oliver was able to independently dress himself and go into school wearing something other than sweatpants, was monumental in his life. I saw the change that came over him from a pair of jeans was not only so amazing and such an incredibly aha moment, but really tough for me as a mom, and especially because I dedicated my career to fashion. How in the world I missed this with my own child?
Yeah.
How did I miss something so important? So it gives me a lot of joy to hear that it has, you know, helped you guys as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's been huge. And I think that, you know that and for us, it's such a small thing. I memean, he is most of the time pretty independent. And so for us, it's a blip in our world. But I think, you know, and for me, it probably means more as a parent than it does for him as a child, because for him, it's just like, you know, he's 8, so he probably comes and goes. It's fleeting. For me as a parent, and you know this, they're already hitting milestones later. So every milestone's a big deal.
Yeah.
So independence, anything he does that's an independence milestone is huge to me. Whereas somebody else is like, he held a pencil. He wrote his name today. I'm like, he wrote his name today. He could hold a pencil and he had the hand strength to write his name. He did 2 math pages today. Like, he had the energy and the time to do 2 math pages. Like, that's huge in our house. I notice every one of those little milestones. Whereas someone else's kid, they're just like, oh, he did class for 4 hours. I'm like, what? He sat still for 4 hours? Like, those are huge things in our house. And so those independence milestones mean a lot. Like, know that you're making a huge difference. And I'm sure that, and, you know, I kind of want to get into that. So, like, you started Runway of Dreams out of a necessity, really, in your household.
Yes.
But my guess is you're probably a personality type like me. I can't just do something small. I see something, I start it, and then I go 110% because I just have like this type A personality and I go all the way. So is that what happened with you? You kind of saw a need and then kept going with it?
Yes. And you're spot on that I've never known how to think small. I mean, I've always, since I was a little girl, knew that I was going to be in fashion. I wanted to be a fashion designer, but I wasn't going to be just a fashion designer. I wanted to be a global brand. Like, I wanted to be humongous. So I, you know, never thought small. And truth be told, when Oliver came into our life and, you know, we started realizing the challenges that it was going to have with everyday tasks, like dressing himself. I mean, I wasn't anywhere near thinking about changing the fashion industry. I, at that time, owned my own business. I was rocking and rolling over there. But then, you know, when I saw the impact that the pair of jeans had on Oliver at 8 years old, I just could not imagine how the almost 1 billion people on our planet that have disabilities, how were they managing in their life with clothing challenges? And it kept kind of eating away at me a little bit, that how was Oliver going to manage everything in this world if he couldn't even independently dress himself? And it obviously was very personal to me that there was nothing available in the industry. And this was back in 2013 when I decided to take my background and have a small goal of changing the fashion industry.
Tiny.
It's tiny. People with disabilities. The fact that there were 0 mainstream brands that even understood what adaptive clothing was or had ever even heard of that phrase. And again, this is something that was my livelihood. I had worked in the industry almost 20 years already by that point, and it wasn't ever anything anybody thought about, talked about, nothing. So I think then it just became I have to do this. It wasn't a thought. I mean, it was a thought in the sense that I sold my half of the business, and I had to have a sit down with my husband that we were going to go from a 2-salary family to a 1-salary family. And during, the time that I was building this, I didn't, I was going to not probably bring in a dime because I needed to do a tremendous amount of research before I could even approach the fashion industry. I only knew my world with Oliver. I didn't know what your world was. I didn't know what somebody that had limb differences or Down syndrome or autism or wheelchair users. I needed to fully immerse myself in the population at large to be able to say there are commonalities between clothing challenges and different disabilities, and we can solve them by making modifications to mainstream clothing to make it more wearable for people with disabilities. And the only way that I could do that is if I rolled up my sleeves and got involved and really knew what I was talking about. And that's what I did for an entire year. I spent the year of 2013-14 going to schools and hospitals and facilities and doing focus groups and surveys and just educating myself as much as I possibly could.
That's great. I mean, and then from there, you team up with Tommy Hilfiger. Do you just jump right into that?
No, after that year of research, that's when I sat down and said, all right, now I have all of this information. I know, what the commonalities are, but I have to now put that into design. I had to put my design hat on now and say, what can I do to mainstream clothing to make it more wearable for people with disabilities? Okay, buttons are a huge problem across the board, both physical and cognitive. So the reality is the button and buttonhole was developed in the 13th century, if you can believe that. And the fact that we are still using to this day technology that was made in the 13th century is preposterous when we can run our lives via our phone. And we're still using such dated thought processes. So, one thing that immediately kind of came to my mind as an easier closure were magnets, and being able to put a magnet behind a button so that it looked exactly like the original product. It just closed in a different way. So developing those modifications. And then I went to Target and Kohl's and just bought product right off the rack and sat at my kitchen table and took them all apart and put them back together with modifications in it until I had great prototypes. And that's when I decided that I was ready to approach the fashion industry. And Tommy Hilfiger was my first stop.
Oh, and first stop, and it worked.
It worked.
So you're convincing.
Yes. Well,
how can you say no?
And Tommy, so that might have helped.
Well, also, I mean, how can you bring something like this up and say no to it?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a really good question because it was a big challenge in the beginning, in the fact that no mainstream brands had ever done this before. So it was very easy for brands to say, there must be a reason. Yeah. If in 2014, 0 mainstream brands are doing anything for people with disabilities, there is absolutely a reason. So good luck.
Yeah.
I think you're doing something great, and keep us posted was a lot of the response that I got. And the change in my approach came in after hearing so many times the same reaction. I knew that I had to take the financial commitment off the table in terms of taking a risk.
Yeah.
Nobody was willing to take a risk on something that wasn't proven. So at the time, Runway of Dreams was a for-profit. I had no idea how to run a nonprofit. I knew nothing of that. I was a designer. I ran my own business. I had no idea. So, but I knew that the only way I was going to be able to prove that there was a market and it was humongous and viable and a business opportunity, I had to take the financial risk off the table, and I decided to become a nonprofit. Because if I was completely wrong and I got brands to come on this journey with me, the very least they would have gotten taxed.
Yeah.
Right.
And it not only felt good to do something like this, but it, was much lower risk.
Yep.
Fortunately, as soon as I became a nonprofit, that's when people started saying, yes, I'll meet with you. I think that's a great idea. And Tommy Hilfiger was the first major brand to go on this journey. And they have been so unbelievably supportive in the fact that now they saw that this is a huge business opportunity.
Yeah.
And Tommy Adaptive is just another division within the Tommy portfolio. It is not considered a nonprofit or a poor people with disabilities. It is considered the same as Tommy Jeans and Tommy Collection and all the other divisions within Tommy. And fortunately, now Zappos is in the game with Zappos Adaptive and Target and Kohl's and Nike. So change is absolutely happening in the industry. And I think that there will come a day that all major brands will have adaptive versions of their products.
Yeah. I mean, so we interviewed Ashley Robinson as well, Colton Robinson's mom. And we were talking about I feel like in just such a short time, it's come so far. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, even 2014 is when you started this, and it's only 2020 now. And in such a short time, so much has happened. And it's so crazy for me to see as a parent, like what accessibility there is for even just for me to buy clothing for Eddie. Now that he's at an age where he's interested in what he puts on his body and what kind of clothes he wants to buy. We were buying, I was saying this on Ashley's episode, we were buying a bathing suit for my daughter from Aerie, and she wanted to look in a different section, and we came across, what was it? The ostomy bags.
Oh, the colostomy bag.
Yeah. Colostomy bags. They're covers. Yeah. And I was like, this is the greatest idea. I was like, why wouldn't someone do this beforehand?
Yeah.
I'm literally made the whole house come over. I'm like, everybody come look. No one cared. I'm like, look at everybody. Look how cool this is. Everyone's like, that's great. Okay. But I get so excited because it's just I just think if I was in that position, what a pain if you're just searching and searching and searching for something so that you can go to the beach. Everyone should just be able to go to the beach and feel comfortable on the beach. I know, I don't want to have trouble finding out something to wear, so no one else should have a problem either. Just go to the beach and have fun and feel pretty.
You have a terrible time finding something to wear to the beach, if I could just say.
They should have trouble the same way I have trouble. So, Runway of Dreams is taking
I do have a quick question. Yeah. What is it like to be one of the last pioneers? Because this is, what?
The latest pioneers?
Well, I mean, there's not really much more fronts you can pioneer anymore.
You never know.
But this is a huge demographic that absolutely has been overlooked.
Yeah, 1 billion.
For centuries, and that's in my opinion, that is the biggest story. Is you are a pivotal character that has created this whole essentially revolution in clothing.
It's your adaptive fashion world.
I think that's the biggest thing for me that I get to go brag about when we get finished with all this about who I am.
Oh my God. Thank you. Brag away.
And when they're like, Mindy who? I'm like, you don't know Mindy Scheier? Oh my God, this guy doesn't know Mindy Scheier. And then I get to do that, but
I can barely walk down the street anymore. It's crazy.
I know. How do you get through your everyday life? That's something else I want to know. I think it's a little indescribable. And also, I hope encouraging to others out there that one idea can change the world. I mean, it's very easy to say, how can one person change the fashion industry? Or how can, maybe they're right. If nobody's done this before, if there's no mainstream brands
then I'm probably wrong. I mean, they can't be wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong that maybe there isn't a market for this. And I think that being comfortable and being okay to believe in yourself and kind of block out the noise of people that, I'm sure were thinking they were giving good advice, but I think hopefully will be something that people take from this interview, that whether it's changing the life of one person or millions of people, you have that capacity. And if you don't believe in yourself and what you're going towards, then how do you expect anybody else to? That's number one. And number two is, I'm honored that, you think that I'm the pioneer and whatnot. But
well, you are.
It takes a village. It really does. I mean, I think the greatest thing that I know how to do is know what I'm not an expert in. And I bring in those that are better at just certain things that I am, or more knowledgeable. Like I said, I had no idea how to do a nonprofit. I didn't even know what a 501c3 was when I just knew this is what I needed to do to get to my goal. So I am so grateful that I've had so many incredibly brilliant and amazing people that have been with me on this journey. But I think the bottom line is it's okay to have a big mouth, believe in what you're doing, and just go for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? And this is also, I'm a big believer that it's never failure, it's just feedback. Yep. So every time that a brand would say, good luck, great idea, blah, 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 they were just giving me the feedback that I needed, because that's what pivoted me to go the nonprofit route.
Yep.
So thank you for that compliment, but that's my 2 cents.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's perfect. I mean, like, pivot is the key word. I hear that a lot. And I've heard that recently and tried to remember that when I hear things. And I think I'm one of those people that I hear, something happens and I'm like, oh, that's it. It's not going to work.
Oh my God.
And now I'm learning that no, you take it and you're just like, okay, we just need to pivot.
Yep.
And we look at the next thing.
Yep. Take the feedback.
Yeah.
You stop, take a breath, and then continue.
See what works next. If it's what you really want, you have a passion, and then something's going to work and you feel it in your gut, then you just need to pivot and find the right way to make that happen, because it's obviously going to, or people don't succeed. That's the people that succeed. That's how they're getting there.
Yes. And I'm living proof of it. I mean, it's just the bottom line. It's exactly how I got to where I am.
Yeah. Runway of Dreams, taking off, building brands every day, it seems like. How did Gamut Management come about?
So over, I would say, the past couple years, all of a sudden, talent agents or other brands or industries started reaching out to Runway of Dreams because they wanted to get connected to people with disabilities. For example, Delta Airlines reached out to us and they said, we want to be the official airline of people with disabilities. Can you connect us to people in Runway of Dreams? We want to understand the population better, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
Of course, no problem. And we helped fill roles in in-flight videos, and we helped them understand what they could be doing to make the experience better for people with disabilities, all the way up to we actually placed people in roles on Broadway to fill the role of Tiny Tim this past year. So just more and more outreach about being connected to the population of people with disabilities started happening. And I just couldn't imagine that if they were reaching to a nonprofit, that must mean there's a void in the market. Why would they have to come to a nonprofit when there should or could be an actual management company that represents people with disabilities? So about 2 years ago, I started working on a business plan to launch the first ever management company that exclusively represents people with disabilities. We're not just a division in another company, or this isn't, just a kind of one-off. It's all that we do.
That's awesome.
So it's really been such an amazing opportunity for the population in terms of rebranding people with disabilities in the public eye and in our mainstream media. You know, when you think about it, as I was developing products or helping, to create the modifications, I didn't do this in a silo. I had focus groups. I had surveys because the population needs to be involved in products that are being made for them.
Right.
And so that was the best opportunity that I could provide brands and companies coming to us to say, I have a whole network of people in Gamut that can be involved in every step of the process to develop products, to be in your ad campaigns, to be on your runways and in your commercials. And you need to think outside the box of who your consumers are. And I have them all here, or I'm building to get them all in Gamut. But it really was a natural progression of what needed to happen based on what was happening with Runway Dreams and the requests that are coming in. So Gamut Management is a for-profit company that, again, we manage people with disabilities exclusively to not only help brands create products for people with disabilities, but to also help the entertainment industry in increasing the amount of people that we see in the public eye with disabilities, because it shapes our mainstream world. And Runway of Dreams has now become the nonprofit partner of Gamut.
I think it's huge, especially because representation, and we talk about it all the time, is so important. And, it's important on all sides, but huge in this world for inclusive. And Ashley talked about it when we talked to her about when Colton first got started, and, she went to the first agency and they kind of were like, there's not a need for that. Well, there's definitely a need for that. It's just everyone thinks that it's a niche and there's just not enough people that are interested. You're out of your mind if you think, and we're just talking about really, if you talk about what falls under the umbrella that's more mainstream, but really if you add on all the other like disabilities that are invisible or mental health disabilities, that the disability community is huge and it should be represented properly. And it's crazy to think, like we talk about all the time, like when I went to a conference and someone said, oh, you're in a niche podcast, you should be over here, like in this whole group, and you should go. I said, 100% we're not a niche.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not the way we're planning on doing it. Like, if you think we're a niche, you're out of your mind, because if you only knew every time I talk to someone and say, this is the type of podcast we're looking to do, and someone goes, oh, my cousin, my brother, my son, I'm like, everyone I talk to is somehow related to this podcast. There's no way we're a niche.
Yeah, unless niche means involving everybody.
Yes.
Then we are
That's
a
what
niche.
Gamut means. So there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but also I think it comes from a lack of understanding and education about the population. My favorite statistic is that people with disabilities are the largest minority we have on our planet.
Yeah.
By far. So that's the absolute opposite of a niche.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's time. We both watched the 504, what documentary, what's the name of it?
Crip Camp
on Netflix. Have you seen it?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Oh, it's
Shit.
so
First of all, I really hope
good.
it's named Crip Camp,
It
and
is.
I didn't just say something
It is.
stupid.
No.
Like, you insensitive piece of shit.
No, it's called Crip Camp.
Oh my
It's
God.
on Netflix.
So
it's
good.
phenomenal. It's about the group of individuals who basically started the 504 and got it going.
Oh my God.
It's
That's so cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
And they all kind of met at a camp in the 70s, and then they ended up just like politically starting a movement and then created the 504.
That is unbelievable.
It's the best
They would have like
documentary.
sit-ins, and they'd be like, take away our wheelchairs, and they'd be like, they would call into the police station, and be like, we have to get rid of them. And they'd be like, just kick them out. They'd be like, we can't. They can't move. Like, we have to pick them up and physically move them.
Weeks. They stayed there.
Yeah.
They stayed there like a week with no bathroom, no care.
Oh
no,
my God.
you got to watch it. It's so good.
That's amazing.
Oh, they were taking care of each other. Like,
Yeah,
it
they
was,
were like caring for each other, like changing each other, helping each other with the bathroom care. It's the best documentary. It's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And it's so well represented of everybody's individual disabilities. And it's one of the best documentaries. And it came out the same week that Tiger King came out.
Oh, there you go.
That's why you haven't
also
heard
got
about it.
shadowed.
That's the other end of the spectrum.
Exactly. And every
That
time
damn Carol Baskins.
every time someone would post about Tiger King, I would be like, okay, and then go watch this. Okay, and then go watch this. Because I was like, this is too good. You can't miss it.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I
it was
love it.
great.
So,
oh my
yes,
God, we were laughing
so-
hard.
I mean, I think that what you're doing with Gamut is just so huge, and tying the two together. It obviously came from a need. I mean,
It did.
you saw a need, and again, you answered it. You've done that twice now.
So again, what does it feel like to be a pioneer?
Yeah, again. I don't know that you realize it as much as it's happening. I mean, I can't imagine. But where do you see, inclusive and the adaptive world? How do you see it reaching even more people? I mean, it's obviously we're kind of in the beginning stages, really, even though
Definitely we
come
are.
far. Where do you see it going?
I believe, I hope, I should say, within the next 10 years, I think adaptive will just be another category in the industry, no different than plus size or petite or maternity. It will just be just different body shapes and considered the same as all other products. And look, I do hope that someday we don't even need to have these conversations anymore because people with disabilities are just a part of our culture.
Yeah.
And especially because statistically, they say that there could be a day where there's more people on our planet that have disability than those that don't. So I think that, we'll get there. I think the education piece, which is why it's so awesome that you guys are doing the podcast, I think the education piece is necessary. I think it's still why people are saying to you this, you're in the niche podcast.
Yeah.
World. It's because of their lack of education of this population.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think we say it all the time, like not that the word, we tell our kids it and everything, but the word ignorant is not a negative word. It just means somebody doesn't know enough about what we're telling them. I mean, it's our opportunity to teach them something.
Yes.
Like, it's more often than not, and it's okay. And we just it's an opportunity to learn on our side why they don't know enough about something, and it's our opportunity to teach them something.
Yeah.
Have you seen, I've seen this a lot. I mean, my daughter's obsessed with English, the British world and England and everything about it.
Yeah.
And I love myself some British TV, but have you noticed, cause I've noticed this, that it seems that British TV seems to have a lot more representation on it. And it's not even like a thing. There just is somebody with a disability on British TV. They don't talk about the disability. They're just a part of the show. Mm-hmm. It's not the person with the disability on the show. It's just, a character on the show, and you notice they have a disability.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And the British are definitely ahead of us in their inclusion.
I say British, I should say Europe, because it's probably more of a European thing.
Europe, but actually England specifically.
Yeah.
Is very inclusive and in the best way possible. That it's not that there are people with disabilities; they're just like everybody else. So I think that is a byproduct of the fact that even just kind of culturally, they are ahead of where we are. Where there's other countries like India that could not be further behind.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you see a way to kind of bridge that? Or do you see a way to bridge that?
I think a lot of it's going to come from media. Okay. The importance of mainstream media and the public and pop culture is so critically important to how we change our views. And I think the more people that we see with disabilities in our public eye, the more that those bridges are going to be created. I really believe in that. And that's having, Europe is doing it. That it's just people that happen to have a disability. The character isn't about their disability.
Yeah.
When you look at the background of movies and you see, people on the streets, it's pretty hard to find somebody with a disability in the background.
Yeah, there's no extras with a disability.
It's a humongous part of our world, and we're not even seeing people with differences. So that has to change. It's going to happen, I think, from the top down.
Yeah.
I think our pop culture will have to start including, and which was one of my guiding principles of creating Gamut, was to try to make that happen.
Well, I think the more, and it is all about, the best part of, I think, quarantine, things like that, is Netflix and Hulu and things. That's we're just sitting around binge watching things. The best part of it is what people are watching. And the more we're watching certain things like Crip Camp and things like that, and people are binge watching things, the more they're going to put content like that out.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be wanted. And so then there's going to be a call out to places like you asking for more, models or actors or singers and things like that, so that they can fill these roles. And I think the more that happens, and roles with people who actually, that's the other big thing. Like, we're not filling a role with a person who's not disabled for a role that is a person who's disabled. We're filling roles with authentic, disabilities, and we're not replacing things.
Absolutely.
That's huge to me.
But it is only just a matter of time now. The ball is rolling.
Yes.
Like these things are taking place.
We just need to kick it.
Well, it's not even, I think we're at this point in time where we are even part of the natural growth, the organic, evolution of what's happening in society. I think that the more positive things to social media and stuff is that we are exposed to these indifferences that other people are going through. And so, a great time during quarantine is to self-reflect, and, you see that, and maybe you have some time to actually think about it now and be like, oh my gosh, like that for me is, that was a turning point for me, was actually seeing it. Like, I've always liked charities and, liked helping and stuff. But until we had our son, it was like, I was all talk, I was like, oh, I like doing that and stuff. But my parents would sign me up for the crop walk and stuff, or like school would just, there's your free, activity. You can go do that. Okay. I just signed my name up and here we are. But, then having a child with a disability, it's like, okay, put your best foot forward and actually, put your money where your mouth is. Are you there? Are you going to be able to do it? And so that's been huge to me. And so to see the evolution of that, to see the evolution of, my son's quality of life is not going to be hindered at all, because we are now integrating all of this.
Absolutely.
The idea, or the understanding of what disabilities people are struggling with. So
Absolutely.
It's just huge. It's so nice.
So one thing we ask all of our guests is, for, if we give you 30 seconds to speak to our community, what advice would you give them? Which obviously is something you probably do regularly, but what advice would you give our community if we gave you 30 seconds to speak to them?
I think the best advice I could give, or something that I feel very strongly about, is that we are all in this together. And I think that it's very easy to get siloed into your lane of a disability, or, I could have just perhaps done this for muscular dystrophy, instead of looking up and saying, my God, there's so many people out there that have a disability. And we are going to get so much more done if we do it together and support each other and break down the silos of, one disability versus another disability. We have to come together as the largest minority on our planet and have a voice and speak up and say, we should be seen in mainstream media because we are bigger than all of you. So I think it's time for us to make our voices heard, get loud, and most importantly, let's do it together.
I mean, that's great. Be a community.
I'm fired up.
And there's not a better time than right now. We're not all sitting at home, but I think a lot of us it's a time we're all realizing that times are changing. No one's going back to the way it used to be. No matter what that looks like, something's going to be different. So let's take the opportunity to kind of make a change in whatever way that needs to be.
Agreed.
So what are you working on next? I mean, what's Runway of Dreams or Gamut working on next? I know things are, again, looking a little bit different right now with quarantine, but what are you guys working on?
So from a Runway of Dreams perspective, we just, over the past couple of weeks, launched a online campaign called Shelter Chic, #Shelter Chic, that I started just for fun, that I started like putting on my most favorite looks to like clean the toilets or
Can I enter that?
Eddie.
See?
and it took people were enjoying it so much that I decided to make it into a challenge to raise money for our population, specifically in terms of protective gear and masks and gowns and what is really necessary for the population of people with disabilities outside of hospitals.
Yes.
In that we are the high risk category, and we're going to be needing protection probably a lot longer than able-bodied people. So the Shelter Chic Challenge is going specifically to create masks and gowns to be distributed to the population of schools or facilities or any in our population that really needs this protective gear.
I love it.
As well as on the Gamut front, I started a virtual talk show that we are doing on YouTube. It's called the Gamut Network. And we've done probably about 30 interviews now of all different people with disabilities or those that are working in the world of disability. A couple, like we had Zappos on and a couple other designers, and it just really very similar to what you guys are doing. And I think the world needs a little soul filling right now, and I think seeing and hearing stories of people with disabilities and the fact that they are people first and what they've accomplished and what their goals and wishes and dreams are what people need to hear right now.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really cool for the Gamut.
That's exciting. Well, we'll make sure that we link all of that when we post that. We can make sure that everyone checks it all out because I think that's super exciting. So we'll make sure that we enter the challenge.
Heck yeah. And
we can definitely jump on all of those things. I'm super excited to see that.
Well, I'm going to wait a couple days before I watch those movies or the videos. I'm all cried out. It's been... Oh my God!
I bet they're fun. Get out.
But if you do cry, it will be such a happy, beautiful. Oh my God, cry. I mean, there's been some incredible stories, really magical, amazing. You can't help but look at your life and say, "I am so lucky."
Yeah.
I think that's what's been making me cry the past few days. No, in a good way.
He cries at everything.
I don't cry at everything, but oh my God, like physical pain, you could chop my arm off. I'm like, dude, you got to get me like a tourniquet or something. But it's like the emotional pain.
Yeah.
It's not even emotional pain. It's just like, what did you call that? The inspirational porn.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite word. Inspirational porn.
Yeah. It's not my favorite.
No, I'm not. I'm saying it's my favorite word.
Oh.
But it's like that just gets me. Oh,
the dogs.
I'm sorry. The dogs suck.
We made it so long before the dogs jumped in.
Yeah. Now they're going to start barking.
Well, thank you so much, Mindy. We really appreciate you joining us and doing this for us.
Guys, thank you for having me on the show. It was really an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Mindy. Really. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please make sure you share with a friend and leave a review.
You can find all the resources mentioned in this episode on our Facebook or Instagram on @SpecialAboutSpecial. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.